I get it. Half the time you're scrolling through endless listings, the instrument looks flawless in the photos, but the moment you pull it out of the case it feels off, the tone is thin, or the ergonomics just won't match the way you play. That gap between expectation and reality is why I'm doing this deep dive on the Yamaha YSS 475II Soprano Sax before you spend a big chunk of money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'll walk you through exactly what you'll experience if you decide to bring this one home. First off, let's set the scene. You're an intermediate player who's already comfortable on alto or tenor and you're looking to add a soprano to your lineup, maybe for that bright, cutting voice you hear in jazz solos or the classical repertoire that demands a clear, lyrical tone. You've probably tried a student-grade soprano before, and either it was too cheap to hold a decent pitch, or the keywork felt flimsy. The Yamaha YSS 475II lands right in that sweet spot where a serious hobbyist expects professional-grade reliability without the full-blown price tag of a pro model. What you'll notice straight out of the case is the single-piece yellow brass body with a straight neck. The gold lacquer finish isn't just eye candy, it actually helps protect the brass from the occasional bump you'll get when you're hustling between rehearsals. The case that comes with it is sturdy enough to survive the usual road warrior lifestyle, and the fact that the instrument arrives already assembled means you can start playing within minutes of unboxing. That's a huge convenience factor if you're the type who hates spending hours fiddling with assembly instructions. Now, let's talk tone. The YSS 475II's high F-sharp key gives you that extra half-step that many intermediate players crave for modern jazz lines. In my testing, the instrument produces a surprisingly focused sound for a soprano in this price range. When you play a simple melody in the mid-register, the notes sit nicely in the sweet spot, neither too nasal nor overly bright. Push it up to the upper register and you still get clarity, though you'll need a bit more air support than you'd expect from an alto. That's not a flaw, just a characteristic of soprano saxes. They demand a tighter embouchure, and this Yamaha rewards that effort with a clean, articulate voice. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the 4C mouthpiece that comes standard. It's a medium-sized mouthpiece that balances ease of response with enough resistance to help you shape your tone. Beginners who upgrade from a basic student mouthpiece will feel the difference immediately. You'll get better intonation control without having to hunt for a new mouthpiece right away. Of course, seasoned players might still want to experiment with a custom mouthpiece later, but the stock piece is a solid baseline. From a day-to-day usability perspective, the key layout feels intuitive. The straight neck means you don't have to wrestle with a curved design to reach the high F-sharp. The key sits comfortably under the thumb, and the action is smooth, with no sticky spots. I tried a quick run-through of a typical gig setlist, switching between a ballad and a fast bebop tune, and the transition was seamless. The instrument didn't jump out of tune after a few minutes of warm-up, which is a common complaint with cheaper soprano saxes that have unstable pads or poor solder joints. However, no instrument is perfect, and there are a couple of trade-offs worth noting before you pull the trigger. Because the YSS 475II is an intermediate model, the lacquer finish, while attractive, can chip if you're rough with the case or if you frequently transport it in a backpack. It's not a deal-breaker, but if you plan on traveling a lot, you might want to invest in a protective sleeve for the body. Another point, the high F-sharp key, while a nice addition, adds a tiny bit of extra weight to the front of the instrument. If you have smaller hands or struggle with balance, you may notice a slight forward tilt when you hold it for extended periods. It's manageable, but it's something to keep in mind if you're on the borderline of comfort. Who should buy this sax? If you're an intermediate player who already has a decent foundation on another saxophone, want a reliable soprano that can handle both jazz improvisation and classical excerpts, and appreciate the extra half-step for modern repertoire, this Yamaha fits the bill. It's also a great choice for teachers who need a demonstration instrument that looks professional and sounds consistent night after night. The built-in case, the decent mouthpiece, and the relatively low maintenance requirements make it a practical addition to a teaching studio. Who should skip it? If you're an absolute beginner looking for the cheapest possible entry point, you might be better off with a dedicated student model that's designed with a more forgiving tone and lower price. Likewise, if you're a professional who demands the absolute highest level of acoustic precision, custom hand-finished sopranos with specialized key mechanisms and exotic